What's happening, guys? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. And let me tell you, we scrambled to get on today's show. We are a bunch of wrecks. Well, maybe Brant and myself are in like chaos mode. For once, Kat is the one that's like early and prepared and things like that. But I'm
I was
scrambling to get my
shocked.
books together. I am in just a complete unorganized disaster, but we're here. We made it. We took last week off because it was Valentine's Day. Hopefully, you guys had a wonderful Valentine's Day. And now we're back to business talking about this week's comic book news, some of last week's comic book news. We're going to be talking about all the great comics that were released this week. We're going to talk about some of the most anticipated comics. And of course, most importantly, we're going to talk about, get some of your questions, comments, and all kinds of stuff like that. So, hopefully, you guys will have a fun show with us. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it to Kat and start the news while I organize my top 5 comics of the week.
Let's do the news again. I'm all fresh. We took that week off. I'm good. But let's get to some of this media news. There's a lot because of the Super Bowl. We will not be talking about Rihanna, but we will be talking about some trailers. So first we do have two news pieces I want to talk about is we got some Disney stuff going on. Frozen's getting a sequel, Zootopia is getting a sequel, and Toy Story is getting a sequel. Reason I want to talk about it, Frozen, I think is, I love Frozen. I'm curious to see what they would do with a third movie. I didn't really know where they would go after the second, but always nice to see that confirmed. And then Zootopia, love the first one. Also, don't know where they're gonna go with a sequel. Toy Story, they need to stop making sequels. I hated the last Toy Story. I think there was a fire alarm.
Make another one.
I can't. Where else do they go? There was a fire alarm when I saw the last one, so I had to leave the theater while watching that movie. Yeah, but yeah, I did not like that last one. I think you can't get better than Toy Story 3. So,
I mean, why did they? I mean, unless they introduce like an entirely new cast of toys and all this stuff, I don't see why we need to continue Woody's story.
We have a Barbie movie, guys. I know Brant might not care about it, but we have a Barbie movie. We don't need a Toy Story 5.
Yeah.
It's a very exciting movie. I'm very excited for Barbie. We also have the Bronze Page, who actually joined our Hairology live stream yesterday. Nice. They said, "Hey guys, I seen Kat and Brant's YouTube video last night. It was good. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That was a really fun show to put together. It was a hard video to put together because we're getting all different creators from Hairology and getting like 10-minute segments. So I was doing a lot behind the scenes, but we had a lot of fun. I'll link that video in a bit though, if you guys haven't seen it. But yeah, let's get into another thing I want to talk about, which is becoming an animated show. I don't think any of us read Witches. I think I read the first issue, but I didn't love it. The reason I want to talk about it is because Scott Snyder is actually the showrunner, which I think is really cool. Is that he's actually running the whole show. I talked to him and he said like, he wasn't even supposed to run the show. It was just like it ended up landing on his lap. And also maybe it'll be in the same vein as like Invincible. These animated comics are doing so well. So yeah. So let's answer some of these questions here. Kaio says, "What do you do when a Hairology stream?" Well, I promoted the Kickstarter we have going on right now. It's all about hair. I'll definitely link it for you guys to the link here if you guys want to support it. We are getting closer and closer to goal. Let's try making the book a reality. And Gail Simone is doing a forward. So, and Sterling Gates, who's worked for DC Comics, wrote for the Flash TV show. He also has a story in there. So if you guys could go check that out. All right, let's see. Trying to see if there's any more comments here, but I don't see any questions. But keep going. Keep coming with the questions, guys, or comments. But next up, so Mike, you saw a lot of trailers. You seem to see all the Super Bowl trailers here. So go down the line. We have Guardians, we have Transformers, we have Indiana Jones. What do you think about these trailers?
So Indiana Jones is nothing spectacular. It's like if you've seen an Indiana Jones movie, you've basically seen what's going on in the trailer. It's just Harrison Ford, just older, right? And that's kind of it. I am excited to see the movie. I'm not going to lie, but there was nothing really special there that was just like, holy cow, if you're an Indiana Jones fan, if you watch the movies, you're going to want to see this, right? So when it came to Guardians, I thought the Guardians trailer was actually it didn't give away a lot of the plot, but they had some really funny elements to it, which Guardians is known for. So I did like that trailer as well. One of my movies I really want to see is Transformers. It's got Mirage in there, and it's awesome. Like, I know Mirage is just a G1 transformer, and just the things that he can do in the cartoon was phenomenal. How he could obviously make mirages of himself, and he does that in this actual trailer, which is a lot of fun. And there's Beast Wars in there and all that other stuff. So I feel like that's going to be kind of a cool movie. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then obviously, a lot of people were talking about it, the Flash movie. Listen, I don't support the dude, you know what I'm saying? But when you look at if you erase that aspect of it and you just look at it a movie perspective, it actually looks like it's going to be a halfway decent movie. And just seeing like Michael Keaton in the Batman suit again, just like, oh my God, it kind of just like pumped you up. And it had like the Batman animated series music with it. Like it just, there was so much stuff in that trailer. And it wasn't like the Flash I was excited for. It was everything that surrounded it that made it good. Like horror.
It felt very Marvel. It felt like a Marvel movie, which was very interesting. I agree. I do not care about the Flash and don't support the dude. I also thought he was the weakest part of that trailer. I was like,
absolutely,
I don't want to watch a movie about him.
100%.
We already saw this character's story in the TV show, and even like seeing the house and the mom, and I'm like, oh my God, I've seen this before. But then, like you said, once we saw Michael Keaton and we saw the Batmobile, the Bat Cycle from the Christopher Nolan films, I'm like, I'm interested in this. I don't know if I'm like, oh my God, this is like Spider-Man level of interested, but I definitely am more excited than I was.
Yeah, same. And I watched it right before we went live, and it was the same thing. Like, I don't support the guy either, and I don't think he was a great Flash in the Justice League movies and stuff. So that's not the part that excites me. But the whole mythos and diving into the multiverse and the different versions and Supergirl and all that stuff, it does excite me. And the trailer looked actually really good. So.
Yeah, the Supergirl thing I was excited for, because I honestly didn't expect that to happen. And so it's like they take the pages from Flashpoint, instead of it being Superman, it's her. So I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Now, I'm not going to lie. I kind of wish they did not show that aspect of it, because that was kind of a surprise. So when I saw that, I'm like,
well, I think we knew Supergirl was going to be in it. So that was announced
I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't realize that. Maybe
because they've delayed this movie so much, we all forgot she was in it.
Maybe I just forgot.
I knew she was going to be somewhere. I didn't remember it was going to be in this movie, though.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that movie. I mean, but like Transformers, dude, I'm not gonna lie, I really like that trailer. So you didn't see it, right, Brent?
I didn't see that one, but I'd seen the previous one, and I was really
so
excited
it's not too much different.
Okay,
it's pretty much almost the same thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm really excited for that. I love Beast Wars, and I'm an old school Transformers fan too. So yeah, that's right up my alley.
Tevye asks, how do you think the Flash movie is going to connect to James Gunn's universe? It's going to reboot it so he can do his universe.
Yeah, he can do what he wants with it. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like perfect timing. It really is. You couldn't ask for anything better to start everything over again.
We also have another question. This is more for Brant. What publisher would you like to see take over G.I. Joe's title? I want Marvel's G.I. Joe comeback memories. I want to relive the early to mid 1980s Larry Hama run. Although I feel like he just took over. He had that previous run. So
if you don't know, he actually he continued to run from where it left off at Marvel at IDW. It was called G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. And he continued from, I think it was issue 155 and a half through issue 300. And that's where the IDW run just of that title ended. It just ended, a few weeks ago. So you can go check that out. And that is Larry Hama writing the whole thing. As far as who I'd like to see, I really do think Skybound could do something cool with it because Kirkman's of that same era, I think, and he probably has a fandom and could probably get the right people involved with it. So I'd like to see that. I know Image has had a run with it. They've done their thing. IDW's done their thing. I don't think Marvel would continue that story since it just ended, an epic 300 issue run, basically. So, they're the forerunner for me right now.
Now, Brant, would you? I don't know how violent the other GI Joe titles were from IDW, but how would you feel if it took more of a, say, a darker tone, being that they're in war?
I mean, I feel like the Marvel run kind of did that. It was near issue 100, I believe. They killed 7 of the Joes.
Mm-hmm.
Cobra, it was a rogue troop from Cobra, and Cobra Commander freaked out about it because he's like, "Oh God, you killed them! They're gonna kill us all." And it did get really dark for a little while until Hasbro stepped in and was like, "Promote our new Ninja line." And then, Ninjas took over everything. But I think those more realistic aspects of that book, at the time, it played really well, and it made it feel more meaningful than what we had gotten with the previous versions all being toy based and everything.
Mm-hmm. So. Okay. Yeah, I'm interested. I'm really interested to see what they would do when it does come out again. I'll pick it up for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we also had another trailer come out, and that's Justice League teaming up with RWBY, which I believe is an anime thing, but it's also an American anime thing. They've done comics for this as well.
Yes.
No, I watched 30 seconds of this, and I'm like, no way. I'm not watching this crap.
I was curious why you X'd it, because I was like, are you a fan?
I just wanted to say it just looked absolutely horrible. That's why I X'd it. I don't know how anybody could watch that. I'm sorry. I have all the cartoons I have watched over the years, movies, things like that. I'm like, that's animation? Anime is anime, right? And this is just, I don't even know what it is. It's just a mix of everything. It's like, oh God, there was everything about it I didn't like. I didn't like the voice acting. I didn't like the way it looked. It was rough.
It's called We're Too Old for This One, Mike. That's what that one's called.
I did not see the trailer.
I didn't either. I'm looking at it now just to see the animation style, and I think it's geared towards a younger audience. Just from the style, I've seen my niece watch that kind of animation before. So,
cartoons, man, I tell you, the stuff that we got away with watching in the 80s.
Yeah,
I consider ourselves lucky. They just censored so much stuff these days. It's just that stuff we had was so violent back then.
It was, and the 90s, with the Batman stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was dark.
Well, let's get into, speaking of dark, rated R. Deadpool 3 has their villain who's been cast. And honestly, the reason I want to talk about it, because I think it's pretty cool. That's going to be a female villain. It's going to be a female lead who's going to be playing this. So it's Emma Corrin. I'm excited for this movie,
Crown,
obviously.
Right?
Yeah, she's from The Crown. I watched
who could she
first
play?
2 seasons. I don't know, honestly. Or maybe I don't know enough about Deadpool's history, honestly.
See, that's the reason I didn't mark it. It was A, I don't know the actress, and B, I don't know who she's playing. So it's I don't even have a guess.
I marked it because I was thinking maybe out of the 3 of us, we could brainstorm it together and figure out who it could be.
I think Deadpool is our blind spot. But he was married to somebody at some point, and that Jerry
Lady Deadpool.
Maybe her. I don't know.
Or he was married to some, I don't know, some leader of some army or something.
What if she was Emma Frost?
That would be interesting. We do have Wolverine already. That'd be cool. I'd be very happy for that. But yeah, I just think it's interesting.
It is an odd choice, but I don't know who else it could be.
Probably someone we never heard of, a D-list person.
I'm trying to think of villains or something that's been in Deadpool's history.
Well, Victor Creed, who gave us a $2 super chat, thank you so much, says they're calling Lady Deathstrike that could be cool because the Wolverine is also involved again.
Lady Deathstrike was in X2, right?
Yeah. It was,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I guess we'll see. But go on, Mike. There's another characters you were thinking of, or
No, I'm thinking about like just history. Like Deadpool was in X-Force, right?
Yeah.
Deadpool was in Cable and Deadpool. Then you got all his individual series that he's done. And I don't know what it could be. The only thing I could think of is like maybe from his X-Force runs. Maybe I don't know, man. I don't know who it could be. I don't know.
I looked up a top 15 list of Deadpool villains.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're all guys.
That's what makes it even more
Jesse
confusing.
Jesse said it's Spiral, yeah.
Spiral. That's an
Yeah.
interesting choice.
Don't know, man.
I see Shiva from SMK, but I'm just thinking Lady Shiva, and I'm like, but that's DC. Is there Shiva in Marvel?
I mean,
Comic Toby thinks it's Boom Boom. They definitely look like Boom Boom.
There's I don't know. There's an organization called Shiva in Marvel.
Maybe she's just one organization. She's just a lot of people in one.
Oh, there is a character, but I've never seen this character before. So yeah.
You're asking the wrong people when it comes to Deadpool.
It's tough, man.
We always drop Deadpool after issue 1.
Comic Toby's like, it's Shrek.
You know what? I'd be game for that. That'd be up Deadpool's.
I'm still reading the current Deadpool. I'm checking out.
Too,
I think what is it? Is tomorrow the issue or next week?
Is it tomorrow?
I feel like I saw it on the list for tomorrow.
Maybe. I don't remember. I was just looking at it. Yeah, it is tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm telling you, that's going to be the last issue for me if it's not good, because I didn't like issue 3.
I agree. Exactly.
It doesn't take me long to drop a
Deadpool
comic,
really
man.
doesn't. But it's funny. It's Lady Deathstrike on the cover of tomorrow's issue. So.
Oh, there you go. They're already promoting the villain. But let's get into some comic news here. So we have more Edge of Spider-Verse comics coming out, and it's just me saying, I know we have a Spider-Verse movie coming out, but I'm really, really tired of these Spider-Verse comics. They just don't interest me. I'm not picking this up.
Whoa.
I mean, we're probably going to talk about it later, but the only good thing that's come out of this current one is this alternate flashback story that we got this past week. So,
but this one's about the dinosaurs or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that they did that in a backup story in what was that issue? I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
Oh, when they did the Spider-Verse characters leading into this series. It was like one of the stories at the end, and I'm like, I thought maybe it was kind of cool, but the story was absolutely horrible. And then we're gonna get more of that. Like, no, thank you, man. I can't. Why? It's just not necessary. It's
too many characters, man.
Yeah. Like, move on. Let's just do something different.
I very much agree. And thank you for the 41 people watching. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, guys. Thank you so much.
I'm going to talk about this one as well. Peacemaker is getting a mini. Oh, we're going to say.
Shriek.
Not Shriek makes more. That makes more sense than Shrek. Yeah. It could be Shriek. You never know. Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about Peacemaker getting a miniseries. Reason I want to talk about it, I like the TV show. And I hope that the comics could translate that. This is going to be a Black Label book. Kyle Starks is writing it. Steve Pugh is doing the artwork. I'll check it out. The artwork actually looks pretty good from these preview pages. So we'll see what it's all about. And it's good that they're promoting the character a bit. All right. Now let's get into going back to Spider-Man. You guys want to talk about Carnage versus Miles Morales. That's happening.
That's fine with me. I don't care. Let them get in a fight with each other. It looks kind of cool. Yeah. Has Miles ever fought Carnage?
I'm sure.
I mean, I'm sure he has, but
he's got Venom in his own universe.
Yeah.
But I don't remember ever seeing him really fight against Carnage. I mean, I don't have an issue with that. I think that could be, could be kind of an interesting, little arc there, right? Because that's what it is, right? Isn't it an arc?
Yeah, it's
Once it's
actually a
over.
little mini event. It's a little crossover called Carnage Reigns.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think Cletus Cassidy actually comes back now.
that's what I was wondering, like which version of Carnage is this? But
yeah, because I read like the synopsis of it, and it says like Cletus Cassidy is back. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe now this is going to get good again. So I guess I just dropped Carnage because it just like that story has been dragging on.
right.
And now it looks like it's going to pick up again. So I guess I'm going to have to read Carnage again, right?
Yeah. I think it's cool. I mean, we want to see Miles like fighting more, bigger villains and stuff like that. And I mean, you can't get much bigger than Carnage, right?
Yeah, exactly. And how he deals with him is going to be quite interesting because if I'm right, I don't remember him ever versing Carnage before. So how does he handle him?
Right.
Victor Axe's absolute venom count. The event Absolute Venom. How long ago was that? The Absolute Venom was that event from like 5 years ago, right? Or are we talking about something else?
I don't remember that.
I don't even remember that event.
Really?
Absolute Venom.
Unless that was some incarnation of Venom that was just like, it's Absolute Venom.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Oh, sorry, Absolute Carnage. That makes more sense than Absolute Venom.
Did they face an Absolute Carnage, or was he just involved and didn't actually? Yeah, he might have fought like some of his little spawns that he was.
That don't count. That's like his little babies. He's got to fight him.
We do have another question.
Nothing is like the original.
That's true. We'll see how that one plays out. We do have a question from Gavin. Do you guys read any Star Wars books or plan to read any? I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I read them all. I know you guys have been playing, I don't want to say ping pong with them, but you drop them. You don't drop them. Are you reading any of them?
I haven't read any of them now. Ever since the War of the Bounty Hunters, ever since that happened, I stopped reading it because it crossed over with all the books. And then they went into another event, and now they're in like, I don't even know where they're at, like Hidden Empire or something like that. What's going on now?
Yeah, so I dropped a bunch of them during the War of the Bounty Hunters because that event wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be. I've tried stuff here and there since then. Like I'm reading the Yoda book because I enjoyed that, but I think it might have just ended. It was just, if it's continuing on, I'm still reading it for now, but we'll see. It's kind of losing me too. So yeah, it's the same thing. They don't hold my interest for whatever reason. They get good for a little bit, and then they get kind of stale and drag on a little bit, and then I end up dropping and trying it. So yeah, I don't know why.
So we're going to go back to Spider-Man. There is the Marvel Summer of Symbiotes, and there is a series, Cult of Carnage, Misery. And finally, Liz Allen is becoming some sort of symbiote.
Yeah, she is.
Wow,
finally.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty excited for this because I've been calling it for so many freaking years. We did not talk about Red Goblin from last week, and it's interesting. I know, Mike, from what I saw, you loved it.
Mm-hmm,
I did not. I was kind of bored.
I wasn't sure if you actually were going to like it. You know what I'm saying? I enjoyed it. I liked how Normie Osborn is like, he's a kid. You know what I'm saying? And he is raising a baby symbiote, basically, because the baby symbiote comes from Bedlam, right? And it's a 10-year-old mind raising a baby symbiote. So he's going to give its thoughts like 10-year-old thoughts. And it's kind of like when you find a dog, say you're a kid and you find a dog in the street and you're hiding it from your parents. That's what he was doing with Liz. He was hiding it under the bed. The symbiote talks like a little kid. It's kind of stupid, and I love those elements of that story, Now, Normie Osborn was a little jerk to his mom. I'm not going to lie about that. I don't think that was right, but I actually liked the story. I thought it was fun. It was different. And yeah, I'm looking forward to going see where that goes, because it's also had a lot of family dynamics in that story also. Like, there's a little bit that had to do with Liz, a little bit that had to do with Normie, had to do with, Harry on his death. And it goes back to when Dan Slott wrote The Amazing Spider-Man with is it Goblin King or King Goblin, whatever it is,
I
Ulrich,
think it was Goblin King.
the son or whatever it is. So it went back to those Amazing Spider-Man days. So I don't know. I liked it. I definitely piqued my interest. Why didn't you like it? Did you not like Normie in it?
I don't like Normie, yeah. I think because I wasn't following Venom and it felt so connected to everything that was going on with either current Venom or Don and Kate's Venom. I was like, oh, well, I haven't followed it. It didn't feel too new reader friendly. And I say it all the time. I don't want to follow a 10-year-old's story. I said that about John too. I was like, oh, why did they make John like 18 or whatever? It's like, well, how long can you like follow a 10-year-old as a main character? And I definitely didn't love his voice in that. I will give it another shot, and I'll definitely give this Liz Allen book a shot. But the art also turned me off.
Really?
The pieces look
like the
weird.
art.
Really,
yeah,
I like the art.
I did not like the art.
Yeah.
I wish I could show an example, but there's times where the shape of their faces look weird, especially Normie, because I guess because he's such a small kid, I didn't really feel like he fit his body too much. But yeah, I didn't hate the book, but I'll give it another try. But I wanted to like it
I
much
thought
more than I did.
thought they did a pretty good job at explaining, got you caught up of what happened. But really, if you wanted to understand, all you had to do was read that Venom tie-in, that last issue of the Dark Web, and you would have understood exactly what was going on in that story 100%, because you literally see Dylan cut a piece off of Bedlam, and he has that small piece of symbiote, and he gives it to Normie to become the Red Goblin again. So it's not the original Carnage symbiote that he once had. It's from Eddie Brock, and so he attached it. So it's a new host for Normie, and Normie has to try to raise this thing to make the right decisions. He doesn't want it to be evil. He actually wants it to be good. And he finds, that a little bit of a struggle there. And that's what I appreciate. I liked it. I thought it wasn't this typical symbiotic relationship where you're evil and all that other nonsense, So I don't know. I thought it was something a little different with a little kid having it instead of just a normal adult having it.
And I did find the page that I was talking about, like the faces on, like not over there. He looks like he's wearing a mask of his own face. Like it looks like a mask. For some reason that bothered me, but go on.
I was just going to say, usually what happens when you two disagree on something, I fall right in the middle.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like lost. I don't read Venom either, and I didn't read the Dark Web tie-in, but I felt like they explained enough in Red Goblin, like what happened. Yeah. So I didn't feel lost with that. And I like the art, fake faces of their own face aside. But I don't think I loved it quite as much as you did, Mike. It was funny because I watched your Spider-Man video and you're like, these books I enjoyed more than Amazing. And I read them all and I'm like, oh, I liked Amazing better.
And you liked Amazing better. And I was surprised at that
enjoyed
too.
Amazing. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you want to talk about artwork on Amazing. Like Terry Dodson artwork is usually like spot on, but there was something off about that issue. When it came to the artwork, like there were some great like art pieces in there, like good pinup pages, and then there was parts where people even have faces in them,
they had
and it was kind of weird.
it's a running theme in Spidey books.
I think I was a little bit. I was looking so forward to that issue that it disappointed me a little bit, but it wasn't like it was one of the better issues.
Disappointed at all? I don't
really see. Really? Well, I did watch your video too. And so like I got to that halfway point. So right when they got to the hotel and the interaction with Paul, how it was all awkward and everything. Like I love that. Right?
That was the best part of the issue.
Then you got to, we got to throw some kind of supervillain in it. And then that's when it went south for me. Like,
Me
I
too.
honestly could care less about this knockoff Sinister Six that was going to sell these weapons to Tombstone, and then one of them gets murdered. Like, I didn't care about that. If I had the entire issue that had to deal with Paul and Mary Jane and Peter and Felicia interacting the whole time, I would have loved to seen that type of issue.
See, my thing is, this is a fill-in writer that's only doing 2 issues.
Yeah.
And first of all, I love his voice for Spider-Man. Every time Joe Kelly writes a Spider-Man book, I get excited, and I would not mind him taking over the book. But he probably still has restrictions. He can't like reveal too much. If you had it all about Paul and stuff, they would have to get into that. And so you have to throw some supervillains in there. So I guess I went in expecting that, like we weren't going to get any answers in this.
Right.
And I was just enjoying the change of pace and the difference from what we had been getting with the Dark Web stuff. So.
But look at, and we'll talk about Mary Jane and Black Cat later, but look at how they do information for that, where you're like, okay, you can't reveal everything about Mary Jane, but still an entertaining story, and they still do something. And that, I think, was the detriment of the Amazing Spider-Man. Everything's just such a tease, and it's just like, oh, man. And again, it wasn't a bad issue. It was honestly one of the better issues, but I wanted it to be like a 5-star book, and it ended up being like 3 stars for me. And it's like, middle of the road, fine.
I thought it was a little above that, but yeah, it definitely wasn't perfect.
But I agree with Mike. The reason why it was below was because of the villain. If the villain was better, I think I could have overlooked, the Mary Jane and Paul stuff.
That was the only thing. Even if Mary Jane or Paul wasn't even in it, and it had just more, maybe just Felicia and Peter interacting, and don't worry about a villainous issue. Like, I get it's a fill-in story. I have no problem with that. It's basically what I said is it's a palate cleanser. You know what I'm saying? Between this major story that we had, it's kind of bridging the gap until we get to the next major story. And I don't know. I didn't like the knockoff Sinister Six. I felt like maybe there could have been something else or whatever. But I did like the interactions between Peter, Felicia, and Mary Jane. Like, I loved when he was driving with the top down and it's like, below freezing. And he's like, what are you, crazy? Like, I love that stuff. Like, that stuff of the issue was great for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Henry K asks the big questions. How was Dark Web? Heard it's a total dud. Very skippable. Probably one of the more I would say Reap Kindred over Dark Web.
Wow.
That's my review.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing. It's just, just thinking about how much we talked about Kindred over those months. It's probably one of the, I'm going to say one of my least favorite Spider-Man events that I've ever read.
I agree with that, sadly.
Yeah. It's sad. Because there's nothing that happens. There truly isn't. The only thing that you do get out of it, and it has nothing to do with Spider-Man, is that you get some character development out of Norman Osborn, with him being the Gold Goblin. You get the character created by Hallows' Eve, which she's getting her own spin-off book. And then when you look at Normie Osborn, right, he becomes the Red Goblin. So if you look at the ramifications of what happened out of Dark Web, those are the things that you can look at. But when it goes to the two main characters, right, Ben Reilly and Spider-Man, nothing has changed whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying that Ben Reilly should have became good again, but I would think that something would have happened with him, right? And we didn't get anything. He gets thrown in like a jail, and that's it. And Spider-Man, he was even hardly in the event whatsoever. Kat said it was more like an X-Men event or Madeline Pryor event than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's so disappointing is that I think we were actually a little hyped for it before we knew what it was. And it sounded like it was going to be exciting and game-changing and all that. Had a cool title.
The issue was really good.
Yeah. So.
Right?
I agree.
We got that $10 super chat here.
Yes. Oh, pull it up.
I got it. There we go. On Robin, do you feel how Fitzmartin has been executing the Tim Bernard ship doing Steph dirty? Because Tim coldly dumping Steph feels OOC. What does that mean? Doesn't help
Out of
Over my
Fitzmartin.
head.
character.
Oh,
Out of
okay.
character.
Oh, out of character.
Okay. Doesn't help Fitzmartin. Really likes war games. Yikes.
I don't know who Fitzmartin is. So.
She's the one who wrote. She's writing the Tim Drake book, I think now, and she wrote
Okay.
the Tim stuff from the urban
Don't read
legend
it,
stuff.
so.
Yeah, none of us read it, and I will say from the stuff I did read, I like their relationship enough, and I did see their breakup, and I thought the breakup didn't do Steph dirty. I think Steph was happy for Tim. They're like, okay, cool, understand. And also, if you've been reading Batgirls, she's got her own stuff going on. So
Yeah.
I think she has a wonderful story there. If there wasn't for Batgirls, I'll be like, oh shit, yeah, that does suck because she's just off panel doing nothing. But she's got a really good story with Cassandra right now. So I don't think she needs to be defined by her relationship with Tim, which I think happens so often with Steph. I think they're kind of better off not without each other, but like I think both characters are doing better with them not being in a relationship right now. Because again, Steph is always so defined by Tim.
I will say, if something else happened in the Tim Drake book that we don't know about, that revealed something about Stephanie and how they broke up or something, that's different. So what happened before that book, though? I thought it was handled really well, and you know, they had a nice heart-to-heart about it. So I had no problem with that.
Yeah. I the biggest part of why we're not reading Tim Drake is because I really didn't love the artwork.
I don't like the art either.
I
also
honestly
like the
didn't like
storytelling.
the way the first issue was written,
Right.
and I did not like the artwork as well.
Yeah.
It also, same thing. It takes you completely out of the story. Maybe if you had a different artist, it could be a little bit more serviceable. But I couldn't even get through the story hardly because of just that. Gosh, dang, man, that is. When you look at that character, you don't expect a Rob or Tim Drake to look like that, right?
Yeah, I think if it wasn't for the art, I would have given issue 2 a shot. But because of the art, I was like, I really couldn't, like you said, I couldn't get through the issue because I liked him. I love to give Bernard a shot. I think I personally like the way the bisexual story turned out in the short stories. But again, we can't talk about the Tim
He's
Drake
written
stories 'cause
so
we're not
much
reading
better
it.
in the Batman book.
Yeah, and we can even talk about they had I thought they did a pretty good Bernard story in the backup story for Batman, and I thought that was pretty well written. So we'll see how that ends up going on. But thank you for the super chat. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate that for sure. Let's get into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're versing another franchise, and this time it's Street Fighter.
I mean, it's always fun when they do these kind of crossovers, but I mean, this is just going to be full out action, right? It's going to be comical, crazy. You know, sometimes these don't go well. We'll see what happens, but I'm definitely going to try.
I'll check out the first issue because it's Street Fighter. I mean,
exactly.
Street Fighter is my freaking teenage days. You know, going to the arcade, playing Street Fighter 2. And it goes right alongside with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So it's like, why not check it out? Hopefully it's good, and I'll continue to read it. If it's not good after issue 1, then I'll probably drop it. But I think it's kind of cool just to see it just for the Street Fighter characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Negative says, I went from one TMNT book a month to about 5 or 6 right now. Didn't expect TMNT to start getting so many different titles. I did not know there are so many different titles for TMNT.
Yeah, it's because they have the Last Ronin spinoff. They're doing the main series, the Armageddon game stuff, and the Armageddon stuff has tie-ins. So yeah, it's a lot right now.
I only knew of 3. I didn't know the Armageddon stuff has got tie-ins to it.
Yeah, I think there's at least 2 different books for that.
And there's Power Rangers.
Yeah, and Power Rangers. Yeah.
The art needs to be amazing for a TMNT Street Fighter story. That's what ICT Vinny says. And Willie says, I love Street Fighters. So yeah, we'll see how that ends up turning out. Next up is the new She-Hulk villain is showing up. So Mike, you want to talk about it? The one thing I always think about with Rainbow is like I never think about like, oh, here's a new villain. I just like kind of want to see them. Like I don't want to overthink it because I like just seeing the story kind of unravel. Because remember, even there was a new villain in Runaways. We're like, who's this guy? and he ends up being a really, really good villain. I don't even remember his name, but the guy who was part of that Justice team, you're like, oh, well, what's this character all about? And then the arc ended up being pretty good. But yeah, Mike, new villain. What do you think?
I'm trying to remember what it was because I marked off this news like days ago.
So the new villain is Meech Scoundrel. He is going to be an arch nemesis. He's a super powered thief. Kind of looks like Black Cat. And that's all I'm seeing here. So his love of the character, Scoundrel introduction. One of the things we've been trying to do in She-Hulk is to make a bigger rogues gallery. So yeah, it's Black Cat and Han Solo looks like Scrubs. So the TV show Scrubs, I think.
Oh, we'll see, I guess, right? I mean, I'm always up for new villains. I like villains. I think villains make the character in many ways. And I'm anxious for, the story to move along in She-Hulk. I feel like She-Hulk now it was delayed quite a bit, and we're finally getting an issue. Because we just got to see Jack of Hearts die, right? Didn't he die in this last issue? So we're going to see the ramifications of that. So it looks like we're moving forward with it. I don't know. I'm curious.
Sorry, this is the art style that's going to be in the Street Fighter TMNT book.
I like that. That looks good.
Solid.
Yeah.
That looks really good. So, yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I'm hoping that the character is good.
So let's get into... There's a lot of different versus matches going on in the comments right now. So let's get into other. Yeah, I think he looks
right. Cool. Yeah, there it is. Okay.
It's been a very solid series. I've definitely been enjoying it. But yeah, next up, we're going into some DC news before we get into our big topic, which is Spider-Man once again. But the Brave and the Bold is getting a comic, obviously, because we have a Brave and the Bold film coming out, and it's just the same book that we got with Urban Legends. It's just team up book. We have Tom King. It's 64 pages. It's Tom King is going to be doing one of the first stories. I'm kind of tired of these anthologies, man. I as someone who runs anthologies, I don't love superhero anthologies. Unless there is like a theme around it. Like I think it's been great to see we just had like a black anthology I thought was cool. We got, we have the Pride anthologies. At least then it's like focused on something. When it's just like Batman, I just
what do you think about the Lazarus anthology?
I don't like them either.
What is this, Brent?
This is what we're talking about. Yeah, this is Brave and the Bold.
Okay, gotcha. Cover, so. I like the artwork. It looks kind of cool.
I don't know. I'll see if I'll give it a shot. Depends on the week, but I just have a feeling it's just gonna be like Urban Legends, where I'll try out a few issues, and maybe if a character I really love, like I like the Tim Drake story, I like the Red Hood story, I'll go pick up those issues. But
I mean,
we
had quite a few anthology books this week too. We had the Betty book. You had this Lazarus book. There was another book that was an anthology book. Like I remember reading quite a few of them. I'm like, okay, I'm tired of these anthology books.
Willie asks, can you explain what an anthology is? Of course. So they're bigger books with short stories in them. So that's pretty much what an anthology is. A lot of times they're special books. They're books that come out like once a year, or now we just get them every week. And again, I think it depends on what franchise you're doing. Like the Betty stuff, and we'll get into it, I think kind of made sense because it's like, oh, cool. We've never seen slashers with Archie like this. We'll talk about it. But the superhero stuff, it's just been too much, but they're good for money. It's easier to produce anthologies because you only need, let's say, a Dan Mora for 5 pages. But then at the same time, you can have, a Francis Manipool working on another story. So you get really big names to do short stories because it doesn't take as much bandwidth. And also you can make it pricier because there's a lot of stories and you're doing a lot of page count for a cheaper price. So business-wise, it's really smart, and I'm sure they're making a lot of money. But as a reader, I like reading more, like, again, the Kickstarter anthologies where You know, they're more focused on theme, or again, the Pride anthologies where it's like once a year and
I just
not character based, more theme based.
it just I feel for a comic there's a sweet spot, right? There's a point where a story is too short, and then there's a point where a comic story is too long. And so I feel like that, you know, that 22 or 24, 28 pages, I feel like that's a nice amount for a comic. Sometimes when you get those short stories, they're so compressed and they feel so rushed that you can't enjoy the story, right? And then you got a long story where you're just like reading it and you're just like, is this ever going to freaking end? So you get that. So it takes a special writer to write those stories really well.
100%. I agree. And Infamous Mike Manhattan Acts is an anthology book, different stories in every issue. So for this one in particular, it's 4 different stories in the one issue. So at least you get it a little bit. It's Urban Legends. Urban Legends is the same exact thing for the same exact. It's literally the same book. They just renamed it.
Yeah, some anthologies continue stories from issue to issue. Some don't. And like all these Lazarus Planet ones, they're one shots, but they're all anthologies. They all have short stories in them.
Yeah. I will say, I've been trashing on Lazarus, whatever it's called, not Planet, Lazarus Planet.
Yeah, Lazarus Planet.
Lazarus Planet. But honestly, I think they've actually been doing the anthology a little better. They're doing characters that don't usually get the spotlight. They're teasing something for the future. I personally don't love all the stories, but I do think that one's a little bit more correct. And I wish they didn't release them every week. I gotta wish it was just like, here's like 2 of them, and we get them maybe once a month.
Right.
No. I don't mind the higher price issues. I just steal them. Don't steal comics. All right, let's get into our last bit of news here, which is our topic. So Marvel has been teasing that this Spider-Man arc that's coming in May is going to be just as shocking as the death of Gwen Stacy. Well, let me tell you. You telling me it's just as shocking as Gwen Stacy's death is not making it shocking, because now you have anticipation. The reason why the death of Gwen Stacy was shocking is because, you kind of knew it was coming because of the title, but no one knew what was actually going to happen. So that's why it's shocking. Why, when you read Radiant Black for the first time, you saw the Nathan die. That was shocking because no one expected it. Now you're building up this momentum of this shock factor. Or like Marco for Saga when he died. It was like, whoa, that's crazy. That's like, how did you do that? So yeah, I think this is just a PR move.
Of course it is. We live in an age where surprises and shock value is not really a thing.
Yeah.
you give it away so far in advance.
And John Romita Jr. is doing the art.
Okay, so for them, they put themselves in a hole, right? Because you're raising the bar of this comic,
building up so
this
much
high, the most memorable, amazing Spider-Man issue ever when it comes to a death, right? I mean, the only other Spider-Man issue that truly probably sticks in anybody else's head is Amazing Spider-Man 300 because of the anniversary issue, right? Craven's Last Hunt. Like when you look at those are your top tier Spider-Man books that everyone pretty much knows. And you're putting that comic, issues 25 and 26 of this volume, at that pedestal. What's going to happen if you don't deliver? Right? I mean,
I literally don't know what could happen that could be that shocking. You're going to kill off Spider-Man? Saw that. You're going to bring some Mary Jane back? Could figure that out.
The only thing I can think of is that whatever it is, I'm curious if it's going to be this very emotional comic book.
If you kill off Mary Jane.
It's got to move you. What'd you say?
Did they kill off Mary Jane? Or Black Cat?
Oh, I would be so mad.
If they killed off Black Cat, I would be pissed.
Black Cat could be possible because Mary Jane, I don't think they could ever kill off, but they've been building Black Cat up. I'd be so pissed off.
Oh, I'd be so furious because now you can't be with Black Cat anymore. So first you can't be with Mary Jane and then Black Cat.
But if this is leading up to why they broke up, it has to. And there's a question in this article: what did Spider-Man do? So it's tied to something that he did.
Mhm.
So it doesn't seem like Spider-Man would kill somebody.
Right.
So what can be just as shocking as a death then?
Mr. Negative says, my only thought is maybe the kids are Mary Jane and Peters. But see, I don't even think that's shocking. I'd be like, yeah, no, I figured that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't love that they did
It just-
this. And
The time period doesn't make sense though. Those kids seem pretty old, right? I mean,
but
it's
they
Yeah,
could be
it's
pulled
almost-
out of some sort of universe, you know?
Has to be.
yeah, it's
Has
got
to
to be. Yeah, maybe Mary Jane did die. Maybe she
She's-
did, and the Mary Jane we have here is a different Mary Jane.
And that
That has
sucks
kids.
too. We
Huh?
did that Clone Saga. We did that
Or-
with Peter already.
She found out about his deal with Mephisto.
But again, is that shocking? It's
To
stuff
her, it
that
is.
I think
Yeah.
to her and everyone else not.
No.
I mean, we do have a $2 super chat from Victor Creed. They are going to pull an Alfred.
Uncle Ben.
I mean, if Mary Jane, the real Mary Jane, died, and you see her story on how she died, and if it's written well, I think it could be an emotional issue. The problem is but she won't truly feel like she's gone because there's still a Mary Jane in the book. If it's an alternate universe Mary Jane.
Also, I mean, even if it was this Mary Jane, the one that we're seeing now, even if it was her, they've taken the teeth out of that surprise with this kind of announcement. So it's like,
True.
okay, well, we're expecting something like that.
Because
And we're getting the Mary Jane truth next month, supposedly.
Right. So
because of Paul. Yeah, we're going to get that. That's right. Because I'm just wondering, like, say if Mary Jane died and we realized that there were 6 months that he was gone, did he go back in time 6 months? Right? Because I don't know, man. I don't, it's hard because it's like, I don't know what they could do that hasn't been done before. That's going to, sit there and make people's jaw drop. Prove me wrong. I hope he does it. Like,
yeah.
I hope he does. I hope that all this time that we've been waiting, that this is a good payoff. Like, I want it to be good. I just don't know how it can be that way. Right.
Yeah.
What about Aunt May dying?
I mean, we've seen that before.
Like, she needs to die. Like, I don't even care. Right.
We
It's
already
like,
had
is
her.
she
We already
still
saw her have cancer. Like, we saw
Yeah.
that story.
She's been dying since Spider-Man's existence.
Yeah.
She's been on.
I
Right.
mean-
Victor Creed says, "Thank you so much for the $2. Mary Jane dies and comes back as a mutant. You know what? That would be shocking."
Would it though, really? I mean,
He was already invited to the gala and had some bracelet that was by Moira McTaggart. So
yeah.
That's true. He joins Krakoa. Oh man, Mary Jane and Krakoa. I don't know if I want to see that. Yeah, we'll see, man. We're gonna see. Thank you guys for all the interesting comments. Brand, did you have another one? Sorry to cut you off with the $2 super chat.
I did, but I don't remember what it was, so it's fine. We can move on.
I think that was all the news. So I'm gonna actually pass it on to you, Brant. So you have a Kickstarter going on right now.
I do have a Kickstarter going on right now. Let me see if I can share the screen on that because I actually do have it open. So let me pull that up real quick. I'll be brief. In the Land of the Dragon, issues 1 through 2, Cyberpunk Fantasy Comic Series. This is the second issue, obviously. We just announced for the first time ever, we have offered original art. Nobody's taking any of it yet. So there's all of it still available. So you can go check it out on the campaign. But if you like cyberpunk stories, you like colorful, you like full action nonstop, you'll love issue 1. Then issue 2 kind of slows things down. And he kind of takes a beat as they kind of regroup. And we find out there's a bounty on his head, and even his friends are after him. So there's some of the art right there. We are live for another 2 weeks. Give or take a day. So check it out. You can go to lasttimberpress.com/dragon, or I'll drop the entire link in the comments. So
Awesome. And speaking of Kickstarters, I also have a Kickstarter going on for Hairology. I think it's running around the same time. We are exactly at the halfway point of our campaign, and we're a little over halfway to our goal. which is pretty hefty goal. It's 18,000, but we are getting closer every day. And we have a forward by Gail Simone, which is really freaking cool. And then we have some really awesome creators, Brant included, that is part of this book. We have Sterling Gates on here. So definitely go check it out. We're literally one backer away from 300. It'd be really cool if we could make 300 during this show. You can even back for $1, and for $1 you get over 7. Well, you get 6 books, but we also have backer goals. You get free books with this as well. So hopefully, guys, could go support. Even $1 helps us out. And I'll put the link in the description for that as well. Now let's jump into this week's comics. So Mike, turn it over to you.
All right, guys. So let's talk about those comics. Let's see. Did I refresh my thing? Maybe not. There we go. All right. So first book we're going to talk about is Sins of Sinister tie-in. This is Nightcrawler's issue 1.
Man, if you're not reading Sins of Sinister, like me, what an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Sins of Sinister first issue. I thought it was actually really good. And I think this one kind of has story threads that are connected to, what is it, Legion of X, I think it was. And I like this book. I felt like there was just a lot going on in it, right? And this is written by Al Ewing, this book, so it's just like, you know how Al Ewing likes to do so much of everything in his titles, and I feel like it's hard to wrap your head around everything that's going on in this comic book. But I love like these like assassin night crawlers, and how there was like this version of like Banshee and Ghost Rider or Doctor Strange like mashup, and they were all teaming up to try to stop them. And I really enjoyed it. It was like one of the first books I read, so I don't remember too much of what happened in it, but I do remember that I did enjoy it. And I love how like the Spider-Man Nightcrawler like sacrificed himself for the team. I thought that was kind of cool. The artwork from I think Paco Mandina did the artwork in this book, and I always enjoy his artwork, and all the characters look great in it. So I was actually surprised by this, and I'll read the next issue for sure.
Was not my thing as someone who's not been reading any X-Men titles except Exterminators. Because I was expecting like, oh, X-23 is gonna be kind of cool. But I was kind of lost in this book, so wasn't for me.
I mean, I have been reading Sins of Sinister, which hasn't been stellar, but it's been okay. But I did enjoy this. I enjoyed the weird take on these characters and the mashups, their chimeras or whatever, you know, gene splicing that Sinister did to create these night crawlers as his kind of last resort army, right? And they find a way to break some of them and turn them, which I thought was cool, because then they had somewhat of a personality at that point, and they were trying to survive and do the right thing and be free. So, you know, some good messages in there. I enjoyed the action. I thought the art was fine. It's probably one of the better Sins of Sinister stuff that's come out so far. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
I stand corrected. It was by Cy Spurrier. I think the other one was done by Al Ewing, whatever.
That makes more sense, because I believe Spurrier, I mean, he's done a lot of Legion stuff. So
he did the previous Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
I think I got confused with the other issue that came out, the Storm issue. I think Al Ewing did the Storm ones.
Yeah, maybe.
So I got one of them confused, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, was it the greatest thing? No. I mean, there was a lot. There was a lot involved in that comic book. So, but it was fine. All right, let's talk about 8 Billion Genies issue 7. So it's been a while since this book has come out, man.
Yeah.
And so for me, it kind of lost its momentum.
Absolutely.
I wasn't like super excited for it, but then when I read it, I got right back into it again. I really enjoyed the story. We were at 8 decades later. Is that where
8 decades? Because next is 8 centuries. Yeah.
Right. So basically, it was how all the cast of characters originally that were introduced in the book, you've seen them all die.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of cool. I was just like, I mean, it's sad that they died, but I like seeing how like some of their lives came to an end and how they became old and all those characters' outcomes, you know. So I enjoyed that. And then in the next issue, you're going to get to see, you know, the centuries of how Earth is in all this time. I don't even know, but I liked it. I thought it was cool.
I mean, at this stage, there was only 18 million people left on the planet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in 8 centuries, I can't imagine how few people will be left. I think the problem for me was the loss of momentum. It kind of took me out of the story a little bit, and there's always a lot to read with this book.
Yes.
And being 8 decades worth, it was a lot of information that they threw at you. So it was a little, especially when I was trying to rush and read a bunch of books at once to be ready for the show. It was one of those, and it was like, oh man, I got to get through this. And so I didn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped I would. And so, but we only got one more to go, and I'm really curious to see how it's going to wrap up. But I did enjoy seeing the culmination of some of those characters' journeys.
Yeah.
And like the kid that was like in the first issue, the little baby grown up, you know, and kind of carrying forward with, you know, her life now. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, I just felt like that issue was a rush because they had to get to the end point. But this would be an issue I think you would appreciate more if you took your time to read it. You know, I remember reading it and I'm like, this is a hefty issue, so I'm going to be done reading for a little bit after that. So I thought it was kind of cool.
That was the theme with books this week for me. Like every single book I read was so like I won't say wordy, but they were not quick reads. None of them.
There was some of them, yeah. Like that Nightcrawlers issue, that was a hefty book.
Yeah.
This 8 Billion Genies book was quite hefty too. There was quite a few of them. I thought the same way, you know.
I think Mary Jane and Black Cat was the only one that was like a quicker read for me.
That was quicker. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into it. Number 5. What do we got as our number 5, Cat?
Mine's Extreme X-Men. Not as good as the first issue, better than the second issue. I like the Rachel and Kitty moments. I know Chris Claremont does all he can to show that they could be gay for each other, but just the right amount that Marvel will let us see. So I enjoyed it. Was it a huge issue? No, but I'm still having a good time with it. I like the vibe of the book. Extreme X-Men.
Okay, I missed the name. Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't get a chance to read that one yet, so I
didn't miss much on it. But it wasn't a huge issue, but it's still a fun one.
Yeah, I didn't read either X-Men books, only the Nightcrawlers one. So,
Infamous Mike Billion Genies, check out Curse Words from the same creative team.
I've never read that.
I never did either. So I might have
heard of it, never read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are 1 viewer away from 60. Thank you guys. Yeah. Really appreciate
thanks, guys. Great show. I'm glad you guys made it on tonight. Maybe I guess you actually missed us last week. There it is.
I should mention that the reason we're at 60, because sometimes you guys might look at the bottom viewers and be like, what do you mean? We actually have this show on 2 channels. So I'm going to post a link to both channels. If you guys want to see the chat for both channels, you can. Right. So there you go.
All right. So let's go with Brant for your number 5.
Yeah. So qualifier, I didn't finish my book. So there's like, I don't know how many books.
Extreme X-Men would have been your number 1.
Yeah. I didn't read that or X-Men or Spider-Man The Lost Hunt. I didn't get a chance to read. I didn't read Power Rangers, Captain Marvel, Batgirl. So there was a lot of books I didn't get to read. So qualify that with that. And Wasp was my number 5.
Oh, wow. Okay. I dropped that one.
I thought this issue was a lot better than the first issue. And that's the only reason. Because after the first issue, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to continue with this. But I liked the second issue. I don't like the villain. The villain only came in at the very end for this one. And so it's going to be on the bubble for me again going forward. But I really liked the stuff between Nadia and Janet in this issue and kind of their connection and talking about their past. And there was a lot of inner monologue with Janet, and you could tell like she was kind of being swayed by this creature throughout the whole thing. And I just thought it was a much more well-written issue than the first one. So.
Yep, didn't read it, dropped it. No
Okay,
interest in it after that. You know,
yeah, no, I
that,
figured.
right?
I totally get it.
So, all right, and then my number 5 was I think it was Black Cat. I think it was, yeah, Mary Jane and Black Cat. Solid issue. Really enjoyed it. Them interacting with that dude. I forgot his name.
Sim,
yeah, like and the banter between them back and forth, like. I was going to portray you now, you know, like they're working with each other for the same goal, you know. I thought that stuff was kind of cool. And then we find out why Mary Jane's powers aren't working. Yeah. It's because of Black Cat's power. I can't believe
we didn't put that together either.
Right. So. And she's like, but I didn't do anything wrong. And it was this conscientious thing that was happening that was causing her to have that bad luck. Yeah. I thought that was kind of cool, man. Artwork always looks great. I just love the adventure there and the interactions between the characters, and it's fun book. That's what I love about it so much.
Yeah, this is definitely how to write a tie-in. At first I was like, oh man, maybe this is gonna be a lull issue. It might not be as good. It just seems actiony, and then you get to the end, you get the revelation, you get the interactions between them, some really good character development. I love this book. I think it's really fun, and I wish we could get more from this writer. I wish this was an ongoing. This would be better. I mean, the reason it's not an ongoing because everyone knows it'd be better than the main series and overshadow the Amazing Spider-Man.
I mean, when you look at the amount of issues that Jed MacKay has written for Black Cat at this point, it's quite a few. You know, I mean, he wrote the first volume. I don't even remember how many issues it was, and then he did a second volume, and then he did what was it? Then he did the Iron Cat series, and then now he's doing this series. So it's quite a few. It's a bit, man.
I need to step away for just a second to help please with something. I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure.
No worries. No, I know. I agree. I'm curious to see what Jed MacKay is going to do next. Unless, you know, Black Cat dies. I hope that in this conclusion we'll be like, and Black Cat will return in this series. Because like you said, we've been actually continuously seeing Black Cat. She hasn't actually been canceled at all. We've just been seeing her in miniseries.
Yeah, just short stories. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, what Jed MacKay has done is amazing for the character. You know, when I remember what Dan Slott did to Black Cat when he wrote her, made her a bad guy, changed her costume, but there's no character growth, nothing to it. Just we made her completely bad, you know. Mm-hmm. And then things changed, you know, and we found out a lot of stuff about her, and I've enjoyed it. So
yeah, and I've really enjoyed how they've written her queer story. I think they've done a really good job at that as well.
Yeah, it started with Odessa Drake from the Thieves Guild. And then it went on to her partner that she trained with, which was an excellent story. I love that. What if they made Spider-Man, Black Cat, and MJ a poly?
I don't know how fans would react to that. I think, but you know what? If they make it a reasonable story, why not?
Well, yeah, let's go. Mike, I went and picked up Axe to Grind and Hell to Pay of the Barbaric series and missing issue 2 from each art. Oh, that sucks. Hopefully you can find them. But I'm hoping that you enjoy what you read. Maybe ask the comic shop if they can order it for you. Sometimes those books will still be in print and they'll be able to get you a copy. So just find out, you know. Otherwise, maybe looking back issues at other stores or whatnot, they might have them.
Brant, did you have any more thoughts on Mary Jane and Black Cat?
Not really. I mean, it wasn't quite as strong as the first 2 issues, but it was still a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And like I said, it was the one quick read, so I got through it. It was the last book I read before we went live, actually.
I'm glad you read it, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on. Let's talk about Masters of the Universe. Masterverse issue 1. Okay, so we're talking about anthology books. That was another anthology book. Yes.
God.
So
my god, I didn't even finish it, Mike.
It really? So it's like it's like Edge of Spider-Verse, but it's like almost like Masters of the Universe, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, I honestly did not hate this book.
Okay.
I actually liked the crazy artwork inside, that cartoon artwork. And I found out that's the artist that did Gru. So people
Okay.
told me that, and I was like, "Oh,
I
that's
thought it
interesting."
looked familiar. Yeah.
So if you read the story though, it's kind of cool, and it pays like a lot of homage to the Masters of the Universe toys. So because there's a thing in there where Skeletor gets the swords, right? And he sits there and he's like, "Oh, I got all the power." And the sorceress tells He-Man, "Oh, I'm going to give you like the attack track, and I'm going to give you this vehicle and this vehicle." And like Skeletor just blows them up in one shots. And then there's that cheesy toy where He-Man and the Masters of the Universe had like stilts where they would ride the stilts and have guns on them. And he's like, it was just hilarious. And then it came to this common ground where they both liked video games, so they played video games. So that was kind of cool, right? That was the one story that was cool. There was another story that wasn't so great. And then obviously it's going to continue with different versions. And even though I like that second story, I'm just not continuing this because I don't want a anthology Masters of the Universe. If I want a Masters of the Universe book, I want a story, 23 pages every month. I would love that. And they just don't want to do it.
Yeah. I only read the first story, so I didn't even continue. I saw what it was. I saw the art style. I was never a fan of Gru. I get it. And it kind of makes sense to use that kind of style in a Masters of the Universe story. So that's cool for fans, but it's just not for me. And like that lead story was like 90% captions. It was narration. And it just, I don't know. It just did not pull me into the story enough. And then ended up being an anthology, like you said, I knew it was going to involve the multiverse, but I just was hoping it would go a different route, and I just didn't enjoy it. So yeah, I'm not continuing.
Gotcha. I didn't like the first story where it was all dark and gloomy, and like that one I didn't like. But surprisingly, the one that had that weird cartoon artwork, I wasn't expecting to like that one, and I enjoyed it the most.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, but yeah, it's just not for me. It's not what I'm looking for.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to our number 4, and I'll start with Kat. What was yours?
Speaking of anthologies, it's Betty.
Betty.
It was fine. It was not what I expected. I didn't know it was gonna be an anthology. I thought this was gonna be about Betty being a final girl, and she probably had the least interesting story. In the end, we find out it's not actually Betty. And then you had like the Pussycat Dolls kind of doing. Yeah, not Pussycat Dolls. That's an actual band. Josie and the Pussycats. They got a similar name. They also the bandmates die, and then one of them's like, "Oh, I'm the final girl." I thought the artwork was solid for it, but I was expecting something different from this book.
You should have known though, because like every Archie book they're doing recently is an anthology.
I haven't been reading Archie. This was like one in a while. I haven't read it. Yeah.
The last one I read was the greatest Archie comic ever that we had Ruben on to talk about. That's the last one.
And that was an anthology as well. You're right. That was actually pretty solid though. I liked that one.
It was.
That felt like I had a little bit more. I do want to mention we have a super chat. Thank you so much for $2 by Lee Smith. What you think about the 2 Secret Wars movies? Was that officially announced? Is that a rumor? I didn't know there was a Secret Wars movies coming out.
I didn't either.
So you're giving us news on that one.
Secret Wars was announced. It was announced already a long time ago when they released like the Phase
2
6
movies.
Movie. I don't know about 2 movies. They did.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah, 2026.
Yeah,
I think maybe we had talked about it at some point, and I remember thinking I was disappointed about how they handled the Skrulls in like Captain Marvel and what they've done with them since and stuff. And I don't know. It's like Civil War. It's like you can't do it on the grand scope that you can do in the comics. So how do you do that? But if they keep introducing more and more characters, it could be interesting to see what they do with Secret Wars. But we've already seen like Venom, so that was like the big, the big thing that happened out of Secret Wars, right? Was the symbiote coming to Earth. So what do you do instead? Or do you reintroduce that all over again?
Or do you go like Jonathan Hickman's run on the Secret Wars?
Yeah, I guess you could go that route too.
I think that might be more of a realistic approach for it.
Yeah,
especially with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
being involved,
like Lord Doom. You know,
yeah, I could see that. That could be interesting.
All right. Okay, I lost.
That was my number 4. So my number 4 is the Betty book. And
then, that's right. So going back to Betty, I actually read it. And
Did you like it?
I actually thought it was okay, but at that point, that was already my 3rd anthology book that I read. It was back to back to back too, because I'm doing worthy ones, right? So it's like I read.
This is shorter.
I read that pages. One. I read Masters of the Universe because they're number ones. So, and I read that, and I'm just like, it makes sense because it was one story, but it wasn't, right? She kept on watching TV and she was falling asleep and she was having different nightmares. I also like the artwork in the book. I thought that was kind of cool. I love the cover art for the book. I thought that was absolutely gorgeous. But my thought process was I thought it was going to be this complete horror book where she was going to be on her own and she was going to be fighting against somebody or running, or it was going to be this
being
really
a final girl.
What the name implies.
And it just wasn't that. And I was that's what I was disappointed about.
Yeah, no, I love slashers. They're one of my favorite things in the world. So I was like, Archie and slashers, that's amazing. And it did, like Brand said, it was not the title at all. Like, I guess they try playing with some of the tropes, but so loosely.
Yeah.
It was just a name.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Brant, what was your number 4?
Mary Jane and Black Cat.
So. Okay, cool. And then my number 4 was Spider-Man, End of the Spider-Verse, issue 5.
The one issue I don't get.
Yeah. You know, sometimes it pays off to hold on to a book when you're not enjoying it. And every once in a while, there's going to be that diamond in the rough, right? And this was that diamond of an issue. It kind of reminds you of, you know what? Dan Slott can write a damn good story if he's not so focused on this Edge of Spider-Verse crap. Like, it's just so good because it was almost like an Ultimate Spider-Man book. That's what this reminded me of.
Yeah. So if you don't know, Kat, it was if Peter didn't get bit by the spider, only Cindy got bit by the spider and she became Spider-Woman and was basically in Peter Parker's role. She had the feud with Jonah, all that stuff. And Peter's just a regular kid.
Yep.
I mean, that's interesting. And,
and you got to see everything that happened to Peter along the way. So similar things happen. Like the burglar came, broke into the house. Uncle Ben didn't get killed. He got shot. And he has a lifelong injury where he can't walk. Right. And then the Flash becomes his best friend. He dates Liz Allen in the comic book. The other thing is he works for Norman Osborn.
So that's the same.
Yeah. Cindy Moon is the Spider-Man or Spider-Woman. He comes infatuated with her and becomes like a sidekick to her and creates all the stuff, all the tech for her.
That's fun. And that's different. You know, Dan Slott, like you said, he does a really good job at those type of stories. And we saw that with the Fantastic Four too. And once it became a big event, it was cluttered and just not one of my favorite things. I'm glad that. And also it shows that if you don't have 10,000 characters in one story, this is just one story that you could tell from beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah. And all those other characters were not in that book.
Right.
And even the way the book was written, it felt like almost like a Silver Age Spider-Man. And that's what was so fun about it. You know, it was just good. It had the Sandman in it. It was a fun read. I mean, I got so into it. Like I really heard all the characters in my head, you know, and That's what I liked about it. And I'm like, man, that is just a breath of fresh air. Like it finally felt like a Spider-Man comic, not just in that series, but in the Amazing Spider-Man series also. I was like, shit, if Dan Slott wrote that Spider-Man every single issue, people would be glamoring over that series, you know? So I don't know how long that's going to last, but that was at least a really good book.
At least got the one issue.
Yeah, you got the one issue. So I'll just read that over and over again. All right. So let's go on. So we're at Fantastic Four, issue 4. So we get some kind of story of what happens to New York, but in all really ways around it, it still was kind of a thing-centric story, in my opinion. Even though you had them all together, it was still focused around him, his kids, and what happened to those kids. And by the time you get to the end of this issue, you kind of don't get really any more of a story. You're kind of left in limbo again.
Yeah.
I definitely felt I read this issue and I was like, cool, that's what happened. Don't need to read more Fantastic Four. Yeah, I thought it was fine. I'm not liking this this new series, honestly.
Yeah, I did think this was a little bit better, just because maybe it's because they were all there.
Yeah.
And so you got that, and you got some answers like, oh, they're in the negative zone. Oh, they had to send the kids. I thought that was interesting that they had to send the kids a year in the future and all that. And I thought that would have been strong, except for they forgave them. Like, oh, it's fine. We'll get past this.
In a few minutes.
Really? No. But yeah, it's just, it's not doing it for me.
And it ends in a way where it's like, you don't know where the book is going now at this
point. Which has been my problem every issue.
Yeah.
You have no idea what the heck is happening or coming, or it's not connected enough for me.
Right.
Which is, kind of ironic being the Fantastic Four. But.
Yeah, and that's kind of sad because I was like, this was the issue that you were supposed to, get what was going on, and you got what's going on, but that was like the end of this story. It was like basically it was one issue decompressed into 4, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna be on the fence about this series. I really am. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be continuing reading it. I want to, but
because it's Fantastic Four, but it's none of the issues have impressed me. Not one. And that's why I'm like, all right, I gave this 4 issues now, and this is the big issue.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Agree. What are you eating, Kat?
Krispy Kreme donuts. I got it.
Okay.
I think me and Phil were packing that day. I don't remember what we were doing, but we went to the mall to get lunch or whatever, and they opened up a new Krispy Kreme place, and I still hadn't gone. I'm like, let's get some Krispy Kreme. So I had some leftovers.
That's dangerous, right?
It is dangerous, and it's the one that with the filling.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's even more dangerous. Yeah.
It was staring at me. I saw the box. But you know what? As we talk about Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I'm thinking like I haven't had dinner yet. A donut's looking awfully good. Yeah.
Well, I can send one over. I got I got one more left.
Mail it over. See how good it is in a couple days.
Probably not great. Even now, it's like it's just okay. It's not as good as it was.
All right. So Brent and I read Nemesis Reloaded, issue 2. Jesus, I just realized that this is not my top 5, but I really enjoyed all my books. Like there was a lot of books that I did enjoy.
Yeah.
This and Nightclub, I guess I just left out of the top 5. Whatever. My top 5 is messed up. But
yours and mine both.
Nemesis Reloaded I thought was a good issue because we're seeing the origin story now of the main character. And that is freaking awesome. Like what he has gone through to get to this point. Like so far, we only seen a little bit of it, right? But he's forced to survive as a little kid. His family got killed or they did bad things. They were junkies. His mom was on death row. All kinds of stuff, man.
They were Yeah, it was interesting because it's like reverse Batman. So like his parents, they were accused of like mutilating like a bunch of
Yeah.
hitchhikers,
Yep.
and so they
Yeah.
were arrested and put to death.
Yep.
And that kind of set the tone for his character, his journey, and
Yep.
his instead of justice, he's out for revenge. So yeah,
And
it
he's
was
out
really
for
interesting.
revenge off of the police force that he says killed his parents.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah, this book is completely opposite of Batman, right?
Yeah.
It is. It's like, what if Batman is evil? And that's what this series really is. And
Basically.
it's funny how you have Jorge Jimenez's artwork on this book. Who did Batman, right? And so he'll come back to Batman, but it's such a good book. It really is an awesome story. And I love when you get these origin stories of characters that you read once before but never knew where they came from. So this is a great book.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this issue as well.
All right, so let's go to the top 3. Cat number 3.
Mine is Power Rangers. This issue is pretty solid. We get a pretty good Trini story in here. Her interacting with the her old team. But I also just like seeing the development of some of the characters. Like Billy, there's a conversation where I forget who's talking to him, but he's like, "Hey, like you haven't been a Power Ranger in a while." It's like, well, just because I'm not suiting up doesn't mean I'm not doing Power Ranger things. So I really liked how this writer has really been able to embrace Ryan's type of storytelling. It just feels very transitional, and you feel like it's building into something bigger, and I want to see what that bigger arc is. But it's been a pretty solid series, and the art solid as well.
Nice, very good. All right, so Brant, what's yours?
Mine was actually Nightclub. What is this, issue 3?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, this was the best issue for me. So you guys know I've been critical of the first 2, but this one came together. I felt like, because now they're like full on superheroes and they're doing it for money and they're helping all these shops in the mall, and I thought that was fun. But then you obviously have to come to some kind of thing where they're in danger and stuff. And first there's like the skirmish at the house party, where they have to deal with all that. And I thought that was interesting choices. Like one of them just wants to put down the guy, and the other's like, no, we got to protect our identities.
Yeah, it's like we got to protect our identities, let her get our asses beat, which is kind of funny. Yeah.
And then they didn't realize they needed to be invited in, which cost one of them pretty dearly in this issue, at least for a minute. So that was fun. That was interesting that they didn't think about that. And then now you're introducing another, sect of vampires who've been around since Lincoln. So I think things are going to get really active going forward. But I thought this was a really fun issue.
I feel like these are the vampires that are like jaded, have been around for years and years. Society has kicked them in the ass. Yeah. And then you get these young kids that are just like the hot shots and can deal with it. But at the same time, in this issue, it was all about, oh, we're having fun. We're on YouTube. We're going to make money. And then they wind up going into a serious situation where lives were at stake, right? Just something that it really meant something for them. And that's what I liked about it. They realized that this is not going to be as easy as we thought it is. This is real life now. Yeah.
And there were some nice character beats too. It was the girl saying, have you ever felt like, how hard it is to pine over somebody, and they're talking about somebody else, and the other guy's like, yeah,
and it's her.
Right, exactly.
Going back to that first issue, you knew he had feelings for her.
Right.
And so there's kind of like a little love triangle there going on, So I thought that was kind of cool too. It's funny, these two books, like Nemesis and Nightclub, both by Mark Miller, really, really solid books this week.
Yeah.
So great stuff. My number 3 I'm going to put out there is Spider-Man: The Lost Hunt, the Craven origin issue.
I didn't love this issue.
No?
I thought this was the weaker one. No, I thought this is the weakest one of them so far.
So you want to talk about like a dialogue-heavy story? This was it, right? This was one of them. But this is one where I said, okay, I know that this is going to be heavy. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed knowing the story of Gregor's mom like where she came from, how she was raised, and I loved how she was basically a single mother, and how they met Craven, how he was a family friend, how he had demons inside. She tried to help him. He became more insane. And I loved all that stuff. Like I really enjoyed that. And this kind of shows me in many ways, like I felt like great Spider-Man storytelling. Like I understand why people really enjoyed Kraven's The Last Hunt, and I get why, we've had like, I don't know, great writers in the past. Like they write so differently. I don't know. I don't know what I'm quite trying to say, but I enjoyed it. I really did. I like that origin tale. So I can see maybe why you didn't like it, Kat. I thought maybe you could have felt bored by it. Maybe you didn't care about this character. You know
That
what
was
I'm
definitely
saying?
it.
So like I can truly understand that, because at first I was like, well, this ain't a Craven story at all. This is more about the mother of Kreger, but you had to know her backstory first on her and why she met Craven and how they became family friends with each other. So I enjoyed it. So that was that. I don't want to spoil too much, Brent, because I know you said you didn't read it, but this is going to be a book that you will have to read, and you got to take your time to digest it, because there is a lot of story here for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll agree with that.
All right. So now we are on number 2, because we talked about the other books. So I'll go to Brant this time. What was your number 2?
Was Nemesis. So very
Gotcha. What about you, Kat?
Black Cat and Mary Jane.
All right. My number 2 was The Last Barbarians. Issue
I've not
1.
read that yet.
I heard about this. This was an interesting story. I don't know if this is true because I didn't see a news article, but I saw on Twitter that cover they did was AI art. That's
Are you
something.
serious?
I am serious.
did
Yeah.
not
So
know
that
that.
was that
Wow.
was something that they did.
Interesting.
But go on, Mike. I just wanted to give that.
This one right here?
No, not that one. Let me see if I can find the cover. The other, I think it's the main cover. Last Barbarian comic.
That is the main cover.
It's this cover. Hold on. I'm gonna show it to you. This one.
Oh, okay. So I have that one in the Virgin. The Virgin cover. So without the trade dress on it. So I have that one.
And again, I don't have a news article about it, but when I saw, I think it was when Image was like sharing it or whatever, people in the comments were like, "Oh, the AI art or whatever." So I mean, I don't know if it's right. Let me see if I can find the tweet. That way we could pull it up. But you guys talk about the comic as I.
Looks like Declan Shelvey tweeted about it as well. So
what did they say?
Said about that part, I don't like AI art, but I value creative control far more, and I'm glad Image don't tell me what I can and can't do.
Oh man. But yeah, talk about the book, because I don't think the interiors was AI.
No, it definitely was not. The interiors was not, and that one cover that I just showed you, like that, I guess that wasn't the AR art, but so I like that artwork there. I thought this book was great. This is a book that gives me almost Jennifer Walter vibes from John Byrne's run, because the main character is talking to the reader in this comic book, and she is a barbarian that is trying to find a job because she did something wrong at her current job, and she's trying to find a job at a guild, right? And she can't get a job anywhere. And so she got offered this job. We don't know where it's going or, who it really is with by the time you get to the end of it. But she has a brother who's a 7 foot tall, dumb guy. We don't really know why he's stupid. But again, everything that the main character, I think her name is Sylve, is going through, she talks to the reader about. She talks to the reader about how the world is, how to deal with like ogres, how her life sucks. She's very humorous, but she doesn't take shit from anybody. Again, it gave me that Jennifer Walters vibe. And I love that. I really love that comic book. I wasn't expecting it to be the way that it was. Again, just because the way the narration was written and the story was told. So I'm looking forward to this second issue here. And so, yeah, I definitely suggest that you read that, Brent, and then get back to me and tell me what you thought of it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I'd heard good things, so I'm definitely interested.
So absolutely good. All right. So that was, what was that? My number 2?
Yeah.
Right. All right. So then all we got to do is Murder World, right? And then our number 1.
Right.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So I'm just going to tell you now, my number 1 was Murder World.
Okay.
that was my number 1. And it was great. I love this issue. Did you read this, Brent, or no?
Yeah, I did read this one. Yeah.
So I love this one, just like how we get the final contestants once again infiltrating the base of Arcade, and it's not really Arcade. It's a life model decoy.
Of course.
Blows up. You find out who the spy is, who is a Hydra agent and is going off trying to find LMD technology, which is a Mark 7. That's what they're trying to get because they have Mark 5s. So you find out while she's inserted in there. Then you also wind up getting Natasha at the end of the issue making her way in. So now everything is finally tying in together from that Black Widow run from the past. And I was like, yeah, man, this is good. I love this book. It's so much fun. It's great.
Yeah. I probably should have put this above Wasp, honestly, but I didn't. So
you didn't.
Yeah, because it's not my top 5, but I did really enjoy it. I thought it was this whole event, if you want to call it, this whole series or series of one shots, however you want to describe it, has been really solid, and I've enjoyed it. And this one, like you said, tying everything in together, and now we're going to get the big, Black Widow stuff in the finale. So that's going to be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And people died in this one. Right?
Yeah,
you wind up getting Leapfrog died.
Yeah,
he got killed. So it's
and the girl with the one arm, right?
Yeah. I think she died. Yeah,
I think so. I think it was just the guy that was crushing on her and the spy that were left at the end.
Right. Yeah, the Hydra agent, and now you got Black Widow coming in there. So.
Right.
What does it say? People are even saying that interior art was ripped straight from the game Witcher 3. Even one of the characters looks like Siri.
I heard that too, that the interiors weren't like AI, but they were like copying things. I don't know. It's definitely a crazy story with the artwork for that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I know nothing about Witcher, so I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Yeah.
I know I saw something that said they use 3D models, which a lot of artists actually do, and then they, obviously they change it a lot.
So I don't know. I just know that the story was written well, and that's all I cared about, right? So there's that.
I feel like it, and obviously I very much do not support AI art for comics, but I think it would be an even bigger story if they made the interiors all AI, because the cover, but you start out with a cover and then that's how more AI art starts. But it's crazy. Crazy stuff.
I couldn't tell you. Here's the way that the artwork looks inside.
Mm.
So that's your main character right there. I don't know. I don't know if that looks like her, anything, but I thought it looked fine. And, there's that in there. So I don't know, again, if it's copying anything or whatever, but
you Witcher 3 fans will have to let us know.
Yeah. I like the story, and that's all it is. Do you have a little panda guy in Witcher 3? I don't know, so it's,
I do play Witcher 3. I have Witcher 3, so when I read it, I'll if I notice anything, I'll let y'all know.
Yeah, let us know. But again, I enjoyed it and for what it is, and I had no idea there was AI art in the cover, but oh well. I'm not
Well,
going to
you
get
find
bent
out
out
on
of shape.
Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not going to bent out of shape over it. Right. So that's that. All right. So, yep, Moon Knight. That was my number one. Brant, what was yours?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Good. Yeah.
The
right.
edge of,
Yep. Awesome. That's really cool, man. I'm glad you enjoyed that book a lot.
Yeah, it was good.
You know, and with the I didn't even say too with the Bagley artwork, it looked great. It really did.
No, it was surprising that it was good.
Yeah.
Because I was dreading that until you were like, "Oh, this is so good," and I'm like, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. And Kat, number one for you.
This is going to be a surprising one because I don't think it's ever been my pick of the week, but Batgirls was a really good issue, Brent.
Of course it is. Don't read it. I will read it, but
I will not spoil it for you, but there's a lot that happens in the issue. So you get a really, really good confrontation between Stephanie and her dad. Something big happens in the middle of the issue.
Okay.
It's something really big, and then it actually sets up some really interesting story for both Stephanie and Cassandra. I think it really showed the root of their friendship, and I feel like not the one problem I've had with Batgirls, but a major problem I've had with the series. I feel like we're not seeing enough organicness of their friendship. Like there's a lot of times where they're just teaming up with each other. We don't actually get to see their relationship. But this one, you actually get to see their relationship a lot and see why they care about each other, why they love each other. And there's two major things that happen in the book, and that's all I'll say. There's something that genuinely happens, and I would even say it's shocking. And I'll say it ties into Stephanie's background pretty well. So if you know Stephanie's character, it's like, oh, they've done that before, but they made it with a twist this time. So I liked it a lot, so I'd be curious to hear if you liked it as well when you get to read it, and if you think it deserves the number one spot.
I will definitely let you know for sure.
All right. So that is it when it comes to comics. What's this is? Gotta get back to work. Love you guys. See you next week. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. All right, so now this is time. What does this say? Oh, infamous Mike Manhattan. People accused Image Comics of not supporting artists and taking jobs away from them. Most of them don't know that Image doesn't own any books it publishes, and it's hands off with creators. That's absolutely 100% correct.
I think the only counterpoint I could take for that is that, like, oh, it'd be nice if they're going to take a chance on a series, maybe take a chance on a series that didn't have AI art, because they do like take which series they're going to, be like, oh, that one looks interesting, that one doesn't. But like you said, Image Comics doesn't actually hire the artist, so the person who is in charge of that comic is the one who is in charge of this AI stuff. And I think M. Anthony mentions, if you can't tell it's AI, then it's not a problem. I support AI. The biggest problem is what Mike Manhattan mentions. It's, if one AI artist is able to happen, then more AI art's going to happen, and then more artists would lose their jobs.
Right.
It's not so much about being able to tell whether it is. It's the fact that those AI programs are sourcing art that's copywritten and owned by other people without their permission. That's the problem.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's also stealing. Exactly. It's stealing art.
Yeah.
And then again, it's also stealing from artists who would have gotten those jobs. So there's nothing in the law yet for AI art because it's so new. So it's like it is stealing, but it's not. You can't do anything about it because there has to be a case about AI art to actually say what is lawful or not. And because it's such new technology, anyone could kind of run away and kind of like steal people's work, which is really shitty.
Let's give it time. Yeah.
And they just said it's going to go to the Supreme Court, which is when you actually will get more laws about it. And we also have Tevye asks, do you think Steph and Cassandra would be a couple? No. And this is coming from the person who loves queer couples and loves seeing queer couples, but I genuinely see them as just friends.
They're like sisters.
Neither of them are. Neither of them have stated that they're queer. And I agree. I've never really seen their relationship be romantic.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So we got the comics done, so I'll pass it to Brant now. Brant, it's your time to shine.
My time to shine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, don't put the pressure on me, Mike.
Yeah, I was like, let's put on a show. All right.
This is a guy who hosted his own podcast for I don't know how long.
Long time. Yeah, we'll put on our 3D glasses because we're going to be talking, or X-ray glasses because we'll be talking about specs in a bit. But there we go. So yeah, let's go through our list and then we'll talk about some of these books. So I'll start with mine. Mine are Superman #1, The Flash #793, and Specs #4, which is, I believe, the only one that all three of us have. So
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, we do. So for sure, Specs, man, can't wait for it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's the last issue. It's so interesting, and we'll talk. We'll get to it. But yeah, my list is Superman #1, it's the same as #3 for you. #2 is Local Man #1, which is the artist from Stray Dogs and what's his face, the one who did Revival, Tim Seeley. Tim Seeley's writing, and then of course #1 is Specs #4, which is the last issue.
Yeah, mine is Flash #793, continuing that 1 minute war. And then we got World's Finest #12, which is the issue that you find out what happened between. Is it Tim in this series? Is it Tim?
Dick. It's Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson and Kara, Supergirl.
Right.
Like, why do they hate each other? And you find that out in this actual issue, which I think could be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And yes, like we said, Specs is definitely on all our radars. And man, I don't know, man. We might get a volume 2 out of that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
I hope so.
So let's go ahead and talk about World's Finest since you kind of went into the plot there. So, been a good book. I mean, we always talk about this book. It's such a solid read. So, and now we're kind of like taking a step back from all that Magog stuff and kind of focusing on that story with Robin and Supergirl,
which I'm happy for because we had a lot of the Magog story and I was starting to lose a little steam. I'm like, let's like do something new. And they were definitely two characters I was interested in from the series. Tell you, no spoilers for Superman, even if you I don't want to hear any opinions.
Yeah, none of that stuff, even though those DC comics came out today.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, World's Finest, I think, you know how this series has had so many great character moments and beats and just like all the way these characters interact with each other. It's been amazing. So I can't wait to see what actually happens between these two characters. I think it's going to be a fun issue.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, so sticking with DC, let's go ahead and talk about Flash, the 1 minute war. We've all been enjoying this series.
It's fun to like an event. It's so weird.
Right? Yeah. And I can't help but put it in my most anticipated. I know there's probably other books I could highlight, and I just like Flash because it's been so long since I've really enjoyed a Flash book. So I just love this event.
And it's contained. That's what's great about it. It just reminds you of the reader that it's okay to have an event that's contained within the series.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have these spin-off titles or crossovers. Make it a few issues within the book itself. It's just like an extended story arc, and that's fine. I mean, I love the last issue, the ending of it, like how they wind up stealing that car and you wind up seeing Superman and what's the other guy's name that was in there? I don't even know. He's like the white character.
I don't remember now.
I don't remember either. It's been a while. But also what you were mentioning, it made that anthology better too, because there was no tie-in. So that was just that one little one-off.
That was like a tie-in.
Cool.
Yeah,
it was the only tie-in. So you're like, and I understand why this ties in. And I think the book does a really good job at not making it just about Barry or just about Wally. It's about the whole family, and it's just a really well balanced. And every issue so far, something has happened. The stakes are high because Iris might be dead. It's just like it's the go-to model of how to do an event, and especially an event about one character or one franchise. And like we said, I miss events like this. I don't remember the last time we got an event like this. Maybe it was the Venom event, but even that was had to be the whole entire world that was involved. So it's been a while to get this good of an event.
Yeah,
I mean, it's what's, I think what it is too. It's just not overly complex. It's a very simplistic.
That's true.
Storytelling book. You know what I'm saying? It's just they're invaders coming to destroy Earth, and the people, everyone else is frozen in time. The only people that are not affected is the Flash family. Anyone that has the Speed Force attached to them, and it's up to them to save the day. It's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And for
it's
some
genius
reason,
in its simplicity. Yeah.
Everybody likes it, and it shows you don't need all this overly complex plots sometimes to tell a good story.
Yeah,
and we weren't even reading Flash, and we liked this story.
Yeah.
No,
it's crazy. All right, so I had like a nice segue and I lost it because a message popped up. But anyway, yeah. So sticking with the Flash, somebody that had a long run on Flash, Joshua Williamson, Superman #1 comes out tomorrow. So
I'm really excited for this. If it's anything like Robin, if it's anything like he's done in the past, I want to love Superman. I don't remember last time I loved Superman. If anyone's going to do it, I think it's going to be Williamson.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Right there with you.
And,
so I'm looking forward to that as well. There was someone that asked, what did you guys think of Invincible Iron Man issue 3? Did you read it, Brent?
I did read that one. Yeah.
I did too. It was fine. It was more of a story about his guy that helped ran his company for all those years.
You read Iron Man, but not Batgirls.
I mean,
I was getting there. I ran out of time.
It was good. I liked it. I mean, and now we get some robot that's going after him, and then you find out like at the last page, like the preview of the next issue, who it actually is.
Yeah,
and it's that mutant. Wasn't that guy that it's the moon guy that went to Mars or whatever it is from X-Men?
It said like that little blurb said he was a mutant hating something. I don't know who he is. I didn't recognize him. At first, I thought it was like Mr. Negative, but I was like, well, no, he's red. That doesn't make any sense.
Mr. Negative.
Well, I mean, he's wearing a white suit. It's like, well, you know.
See, I thought he was the guy that was in the X-Men comic that wanted to go to claim Mars. It looked like him.
Oh, maybe he's a self-loathing mutant. Maybe he hates mutants. He is. I don't know. His name was Fielding. I don't remember anything about him, but I guess we'll see.
But it's not a bad series. I think it's actually pretty good.
Until this issue, I was like, okay, it's okay.
It's not bad. It's not. I think it has more of a traditional Iron Man elements in it.
Yeah, no, it definitely has that. And Kat, the reason I saved my best books for last, so I was trying to get there, and that's why I was like, I was running out of time. I was like, well, I got to read Mary Jane and Black Cat. So
no, I'm glad you read Mary Jane and Black Cat first. I think that was the more important book for the show. But yeah, read it and let me know what you think. I hope it's not one of those things where you're just like, Kat, I don't know why you love that one. But I think you're gonna like it. I really do think there's a lot of moments that happen in this one. I want to know your thoughts on the moments.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about Local Man. Tell us what that is, because I'm not that familiar with that one.
It's a superhero noir book. Let me actually read the description. So again, it's all-star team of Tony Fleeks and Tim Seeley. Right. So it combines rural crime noir and superhero action. Once a star recruit of a media sensation super team, had it all, but then controversy sends Cross Jack crawling back to his mom and dad's basement in the Midwest Jack, struggling to fit into a world he left far behind. And then the bodies start piling up. Each issue is a classic Image Comics flip book with a lead story drawn by Fleeks and superhero flashback into the depth of Image universe drawn by Seeley. First issue contains 30 pages of story.
Nice. Okay.
I'm
Looks pretty
interested.
cool. Yeah,
I
Yeah, it
love
sounds
Tim
interesting.
Seeley's No War Stories, so I'm here.
and I was, obviously Fleece's Stray Dogs,
Oh
so
yeah,
Mm.
I'm excited for this. So it looks like
nice.
something different too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about specs. We teased it long enough. So last
Been
issue,
so good.
yeah, it's been
And you
so
know what?
good.
It shows that you can have a 4-issue miniseries and that's it. I mean, again, if there's a
Yeah.
sequel, it's amazing, but at least
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, here's a sprawling ongoing book. The pacing was so beautiful for this book. And no matter how this ends, I think this was a well-paced book.
I want to
Yeah.
know if they make that final wish and then like what happens and where do they
Yeah.
go?
Right.
I love a book where you legit do not know how this is going to end.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
lilliterally don't know what's going to happen next. This
There's
is
so
a
many
shocking
ways it could
moment,
go.
guys.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see them make that final wish when this whole story comes to an end, and do you see those glasses appear at someone else's doorstep?
I hope
yeah.
that's what happens. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's their relationship too? Because they've been
Right.
hinting at, our main characters in love with this guy. Like, what's gonna happen? Is it
Yeah.
gonna be happy? Is it gonna be sad? I don't know, man. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's twisted too, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got that kind of on the verge of horror, right?
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, so even if you're not like a big horror fan, you enjoy this like me.
Yeah.
So
Just the right amount of horror.
yeah, exactly. I like stuff on the fringe like that. It's just
Mhm.
when you go too far in certain directions.
They have the mystery for you too, because you like Red
Yeah.
Mother as well, which is definitely a
Mhm.
horror book, but
Yeah,
it wasn't like so far into horror.
Right, exactly. So
I get this comment right here. It says, Mike, you should get Star Wars, The Nameless Terror, issue 1 from Dark Horse and review it on Worthy Ones. Is that a new book coming
I
out?
haven't heard of that.
I have no idea. Star
me look
Wars,
it
The
up.
Nameless Terror issue. I didn't know. I mean, I thought all Star Wars books were basically from Marvel.
Yeah,
Is
no, there
Brian
is
talking about?
February. It comes out tomorrow or today.
yeah, I think they're doing the all ages Star Wars stuff.
Oh, is that what this is?
It's also got a Disney logo on it. I don't know. I do remember hearing something about Dark Horse was getting a certain division of the Star Wars stuff. So that's usually what they do. They break it up.
All right, maybe I'll check it out. Thanks for the recommendation. If I remember to get it when I'm there tomorrow,
Yeah.
I'll pick it up and then I will talk about it on Worthy Ones. So.
Yeah. And someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. Like, I know they got something, but I know the main line.
I think it's all ages. I think you're
Yeah.
right. I think it's just all ages books I have over there.
Yeah. It's kind of like IDW did like the all ages of Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. All right. Cool. All right. I guess anything else with the most anticipated guys? We're all done.
No, that's it.
I think we're good. Just it's a lot of books, so get ready for next week.
Yeah, there is a big week next week, guys. So be prepared. But with that being said, we're gonna close out this week's show. Hopefully, you'll join us again for next week's show. And until then, make sure, guys, you give this video a thumbs up, please. Does help people know that we exist. And subscribe to both channels, Comic Book Weekly, where you can watch every single episode back to back to back, or subscribe to Comic Book Corner 2.0, where you can also watch this and you can watch all of my other content as well. Don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss any content from us, guys. It's very important also. And then follow us on social medias, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, YouTube. So, guys, again, happy new comic book day. Hopefully, you guys find everything that you're looking for. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you guys all next week. Take care, everyone. Good night.